Hello. Can we start, sir?
So shall we start?
Yes, I'm just waiting for your
Yes, sir.
go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
then we can start.
Someone, madam, you can start.
Good morning to one and welcome to the second session of STTP Phase 2, sponsored by AICT New Delhi. So, with the kind consent of the convener, we are starting this session. And our resource person for this session is Mr. Dinesh Kumar Panigrehi. He's a regional lead at IT-ITeS Sector Skill Council, NASSCOM, at NASSCOM. He is into assisting the council secretariat leader in various initiative and programs. He is into leading multiple states for skill development and maintaining relationship with relevant stakeholders, including government, academia, and training partners. Liaises with operation team for delivery of program in timely and effective manner and build a pipeline of partnership, maintaining progress of various initiatives and report writing, identifying and evaluating the risk associated with program activities and suggesting appropriate actions to control the risks, and lead partner engagement. These are his key skills into which Sir is involved. Sir, on behalf of the management, the principal, HOD, staff and student, the Oxford College of Engineering, Department of Biotechnology, deem it a pleasure in having you here as our resource person for this session. So welcome to the session, and you may kindly take over the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Manjuna, sir, for the invitation. Before I start the session, can I have do I have the access to share the screen?
Yes, sir. You are the presenter. You can share
Sure.
the thing.
Sure, I'm just sharing right now. Good morning, everyone. So today, today I'm going to talk about IoT. IoT starts for, as all of you might knowing, it is Internet of Things. So we'll talk about the IoT's implication in the agri industries. In fact, when I've got this topic, I did a quick research. Then I found out that some of my family members were also been involved over here in this particular farming part. So I got to know. And thanks to Sir to giving this opportunity so that because it basically help us to know our environment better and see how we are working in the various sector. So before we start, let me just talk about NASSCOM. I guess all of you might be aware. So NASSCOM, we are a not-for-profit industry associations, an apex body of 180 billion IT-BPM industry, and we have existed from last 3 decades. So basically, we've been started in 1988 with the idea of NASSCOM to start as an association which present the industry's voice in front of the government. So it was started in 1988. Then we have focused and informed to the government what the industry is doing it. And from the time when industry was started from 1980 to now, when we are talking to now, we are close to $300 billion industry right now, which we are hoping at least $1 trillion economy by 2025. The way things are changing. In fact, the pandemic has actually helped us. I'm sorry to say this word, but the pandemic actually improved improve the digital economy to a larger extent. So that's about the NASSCOM. And apart from that, we also one of the skilling partner for the government of India. So that I'm going to talk a brief about it. Then what is a Future Skills Prime? So basically we provide this learning through something called as Future Skills Prime Learning, an AI-based learning that was launched by the Prime Minister that we'll talk about later, just to give you a little bit. So basically what is Future Skills Prime and how we are doing it? So basically we are doing it through various technologies. We are doing it through digital fluency, we are doing it through professional skills, because technology per se is not only necessary, it also needs some of the professional skills for the students. So as I mentioned to you, as we are aiming towards $1 trillion economy, so there is an opportunity for us, and there is a challenge, and so we need to have a solution to this as well. So this is the reskilling part that we are going to talk about. So these are 10 emerging technology that we are currently looking at. So let's not talk about this now. Come to here. Now here, we'll talk about the various IT skills. One second, some background. Yeah. So as you can see this, IT is not a vertical skills. IT is a horizontal skills. Wherever at present when you are talking about, we can see IT has been used in various technologies across the irrespective of the areas of work, be it agri, be it BFSI, be it retail, be it life science, everywhere we have seen the IT, the inclusion of IT, the way it has been happening. So that's the reason we have seen the ITs in various sectors. Now, these are the some courses that is also available at completely free of cost at our Future Skills Prime. Through this, you can basically use it. Now, I'll talk about IoT person. This is our office about the COE. We also have a COE Center of Excellence in IoT in NASSCOM in HSR layout. It was there in the Diamond District. Now we just moved to HSR. Now, what is IoT? IoT, in a simple terms, it has been mentioned as the connect the computing device to the mechanical and the digital device through the internet. It can connect multiple device to a particular single device. Let's take a very simple example. All of you might be seeing IPL right now. In IPL, you would have seen when the batsman is hitting, there is on the top, there is a camera has been used. There is a, we call it the hanging camera, which basically connected through a ropes, through that it basically travels. So this camera is also is also an example of how the IT is basically been used. Through that we see how the when the ball is and batsman is hitting the ball, when the ball is traveling to the place, like we call it the DLF maximum success, it used to call it earlier. So those all measurement, everything is basically measured by this. This is a very simple example, IoT, which we have been seeing. In fact, the in our watch that we are watching, the smartwatch, that is also one of the example of how IoT is being used. Now, how the today's topic is how IoT is we are going to use in the agri part of it. Now, agri basically IoT is used in three manners. First one is about the smart farming. How the smart farming has been used. Smart farming is used by the irrigation systems. So there is various irrigation systems have been used. Through that, basically we use the smart farming. Then comes the security. There is a camera has been used in the farming land, so that through the camera it basically check whether any bird or any kind of extra things which not supposed to hammer your particular farming part. The second one is the data collected through the smart devices. See, the data analytics is the important things. In fact, our Prime Minister also told in recent times, the data is the oil of the 21st century. Without data, we are nothing. So the data is the one which basically supports us. In fact, I'll give a small example after this, how the data is using, how is data is changing a country's economy per se completely. So through the data collected by the smart devices, it basically used to check how what is the need of the soil. For example, we have I was part of one of the project when I was in Maharashtra. There is something called as AI for all. One particular program was launched by then Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. In that, we have been used how AI is used in four sectors. So one of the four sector in that one is agri, one is smart mobility, third one is the education, and fourth one is the I think the fourth one is the electronic farmings. So in the agriculture part, when it's been explained, so there I'll give a small example. The way it has been used is they're using a certain sensor. It was implemented in some part of Marathwada, which is one of the drought area in Maharashtra. So there they use the smart sensor in the it has to put. Can I request, sir?
Done, sir. Please proceed.
Yeah. Okay. So basically what they will use basically a small sensor that has to put in the soil. And they when they after doing the irrigation, when the sensor feels the water is needed for the particular soil, then they'll get a message in their mobile. So then they switch on the irrigation system, then the water will be kind of distributed. And the one when the sensor feels that the water is sufficient to the tree, then they'll get the message, they'll stop it. So here you can see that two things is happening. One is it basically identify the need of the soil, and based on the need it provide the irrigation systems. It also check, they also have one more type of sensor which basically connected to each and every plants, which is basically used for the cotton farming. So during the cotton belt, it was basically used in a certain part of Bihar. When we have the data which is presented, which we say talked about, in fact in the areas like Nagpur region, which is also one more, though we all know Nagpur is famous for the oranges as well as grapes, but it also has a cotton belt. In that cotton, this has been used, this sensor has to be put in the plants, so that from there we'll get to know if there's a pesticide is needed, then how it has been used. So all those data has to be collected, and based on that basically plan, and through this data it basically help us to forecast the programs. Now third one is the drone uses. Drones are, I mean, when you think of drone, just to give an example, Amazon, all of you know, Amazon used to, I'm talking about 5 years back. 5 years back in US, the Amazon delivery used to happen through the drones. In fact, now our government has issued guidelines to use of drones. So how the drones is used? So drone basically used to spraying the pesticides, because you need quite a big manpower to, imagine you have got a 2.5 hectares of land or 3 hectares of land. you I mean, it takes a lot of time for a normal human being to cultivate the whole area. So basically it needs the drone to use the spraying the pesticide. And normal drone basically travel up to 3.2 hectare area in one particular day a drone can provide this, and it automatically changes its directions too when it is going. And imagine a fly, one bird is coming, so drone can move the directions and do it. So this is just to give you a little bit of brief of what is IoT, how it's been used, and how I have been part of some of these programs. Now let's talk about how we are doing it. So basically we used in various areas. So now let me just quickly talk about the recently we just concluded one agri-tech innovation challenge, where where we have worked with various industries to find out how IoT is used in the agri-tech areas. So there are certain findings which we found it. I'll just show you. So basically there are few things. One is the soil. So basically in the soil, through IoT basically found out how the soil, what is the importance of the soil quality monitoring. So basically from the soil quality itself, we find out that what is the quality of the soil from the soil, and what kind of the plants or what kind of farming you're supposed to do in the particular soil. Obviously, you can see here the data collected by the smart devices, through that only are doing it. Then there is sowing. The sowing is also required when you do the programs. Now the price and the product information. So initial part is already done in the soil and testing part. You found out how you are doing it, how you are basically, what are the farming that you need to do, how the cultivation has to happen. Now there comes the price and the product optimizations. This is one more major problem. I think recently I was just checking through some news. I found out that most of our industry, I mean, recently you have seen this Krishi, the farm bill, the current protest is going on about the MSP part of it, minimum selling price part of it. But why this MSP question arises? Because a farmer is not getting the price of the product. So that's the reason IoT helps a farmer to find out what is the price for the product optimizations through the Kisan Sav. Basically, a cloud-based market linkage startups, which basically helps them to do it. Now operations, a computer vision based remote monitoring equipment livestock. So basically there is one more startup called as Zero Mac, which basically help them to do this. It also have got various predict failure and equipment, which basically helps them to predict the failure and recommend a proactive maintenance for farming and necessary improvement. So basically this is also one of the device which basically helps to do this. Similarly, as I mentioned to you, irrigation is one more very important part. So irrigation is done mostly by the drones. At the same time, it also used by the sprayer. You would have seen there's a sprayer which basically around and provide the waters to the farming, and those all things happen through the Internet of Things. Now, apart from that, it also helps to sorting the supply chain. Imagine how much you need what are the demand of the market, and what exactly you need to provide the farming part. Those basically been explained over here. And also it basically helps through, there is one more startup is talks about aquaculture. We basically develop the products for the data driven farming in the shrimp ecosystems. So shrimps is also one more shrimp and fish, which is also basically checked by these apps. Now better access of input. There is one more startup called as Big Hat, which talks about how it can used for the agri NGOs to help these programs. In fact, currently when I'm talking to you, we are currently doing working with the Google project. We NASSCOM has a social organization or the foundations called a NASSCOM Foundations. Through that, currently we are working in Gujarat as well as Bihar, so that we help the farming. We help the farmers over there to basically to increase how what they need to do to increase the productivity through the Google. It's a Google project. Google is funding for it, and NASSCOM Foundation is implementing it through the local NGOs over there. So sustainable in the farming disease control. This is also one more area because we have seen that more than the products, the pesticide, we need the pesticides more because it basically affect our productivity at the end of the day. Now, what is a market linkage in the waste reductions? So that, and this we have seen recently, the couple of days back I was seeing, we at any given point of time, close to 30% of our products, remember, you can check the internet and find out the 30% of our agri product is getting wastage at any given point of time. The country where almost 30, almost close to 20% or population cannot get 2 times food properly, there we are wasting close to 30% of uh, product. So don't you feel it's a matter of worry? So here we have a startup called as Agri CX, which basically helps to do this. So if possible, next time I'll invite some of the startups to talk about what exactly they are doing it. Now this Fasal, the startup, with them we worked recently in the Guntur regions, basically on the chilies part of it. So I got an opportunity to travel there and find out how they're basically working on it. The return of investment, it increased by close to 60% in certain areas. So this is very much necessary for our farmers. Now ecosystem improvement. So for that, we also have a startup called Ajiva Bhumi. Jivamo is a technology partner through it basically in the Belgaum region, Karnataka and Belgaum region basically been used. Through this, we basically used to the sustainable production and the procurement of the authenticity and traceable chilies helps. Now, farm management. So basically, it used for the farm management of the programs through that organic cotton accelerator. I have also already mentioned to you the cotton industry is. I mean, in the Nagpur region, we have already started it, and in the Karnataka also, we did it through this particular startup called as Organic Cotton Accelerator. Through that, it basically helps to start organic standard compliance and traceable till the consumer and the strength of farmer livelihood. So basically, it be used for them. Now, NASSCOM in agri-tech, what we do is we work in the national agriculture strategy. We have a committee which work with the farmers to understand what exactly the technology need they do. We also position India's global agri-tech powerhouse. We are working with them, and this is our objective to make the the India as a global agri-tech powerhouse. It also helps to create and sharing knowledge through the various reports, case studies, and playbook. If some of you are having, some of you can register to the NASSCOM website, and you can create an ID, and there are certain reports which is available at free of cost, not for the members. You can directly download and see the reports on the agri-tech. There is also something called a sector promotion. We also promote it, setting up steps to the faster adoptions. Ease of doing business, as government is constantly talking about, we are working with the government to make it ease of doing business. In fact, uh, I am happy to say Karnataka is the first state in India which has started this IoT, COE IoT. NASSCOM COE started first in Karnataka. Then it has currently, when I'm talking to, we have got three IoTs, three COE. One is in Karnataka, one is Gurgaon, and one is in Gandhinagar. Whereas the Karnataka is the oldest one. Karnataka we have started in the year 2014, I guess. And we are working all these sectors in that agri is the primary focus. Agri, then healthcare, then other industries. Then we also facilitate implementations like building bridges between multiple stakeholders in other countries like Israel, Netherlands, and Brazil. With Israel, we are working very closely. Currently, Israel is mentoring some of the startups, which is currently stationed at our Exeter office. So the technology like such as like drip irrigation, such like the water irrigation, those things basically being used by them. Now, this is a startup scenario in the India Agri-Tech. Now, state-wise funding and the what is the key Indian state that is focused. We can see here the Karnataka, sorry, Karnataka and Maharashtra is the one of the two state where the Agri-Tech focus is very high. Now, state-wise funding. Now, if you can see the state-wise funding, the highest is Karnataka compared to all the other states. I can show here. Then it comes the Maharashtra, then NCR, and other states. What is the identify the six agri problems that is basically happening that I've already mentioned to you. Here I'm just explaining on a point by point basis. The first one is a crop planning. So this can be solved by your data analysis, then the yield development, then the data visualizations, disease and pest control, price prediction, and agro processings. So these are the six problems that basically happens through our agriculture. So that we basically solve it through this. Now, the key approaches to tech adoptions, one is adapting models anywhere from anywhere. So you cannot be there in the field to check all those things. So you need to adapt it from anywhere. So this basically started from a water conservation project in Bengal. We also did an open data portal in Telangana and Maharashtra to do this. We also, the next one is we try doing the scaling of the existing program by the digital farm project, crop rate forecast that we have recently did it. Now process of improvising by the data visualization. So digital data analysis to speed up the crop breeding that we did it. Last one is the FPO digitalizations that we just completed it. Introducing the teach the introducing tech to the old model. So there are various old model that's have been happening. One is a so how we are introducing the technical skills over there because you cannot there's a saying we say you cannot replace the experience. So the experience plays a major role. So obviously it will help us to introduce the technical technology for this older models. So monetizing the agri data, designing the pastoral lamps, and pest reduction. These are the three things that we can use it over there. Now this is all about it. Thank you. I've also promised in the beginning itself. I'll also talk about some of the use case scenario which is also happening not in India and how this IoT is basically changed the country's economy. So the example is Internet of Cow. We are talking about Internet of Things, but today I'm going to talk about Internet of Cow. Internet of Cow is very interesting study. Some of you can Google it out and find it out. It is a study that has been done in Brazil. So Brazil, as you might be in age of studying the geography, Brazil is also a country for the cow farming and all those things. But when you think of the cow, the Gir cows of Gujarat is very popular because for their productivity, for the kind of milk they produce. So what they have done is they initially come to the Gujarat, study the cow, understand what is the what cow is eating, what is the wake up time, but every data they've checked it. Then they basically use that in Brazil, and the current as and when I'm talking to you, the the latest data says the milk production is increased by up to 3 times. So it has changed the country's economy completely just because of this car. Now they are one of the leading milk provider to the world. So and it happens just because of the Internet of Things. So how they have used it. So that's all from my side. So thank you, sir. Now I'm open for question if anyone has any. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesh, for your wonderful information and the lot of effort you have taken to in identifying the startups that are working in IoT and that are connecting agri-tech. Dear participant, now the session is open for the discussion. You can unmute yourself. Unmute option is given to you all, or you can put your question in the chat box so that sir will answer us. So from my end, I have some represent our students, community of biotechnology. According to you, what makes them more placeable in case if they get into IoT? Because for IoT, they are very freshers. But as far as the biotechnology or any agriculture aspect is concerned, they are well versed. Keeping this thing in mind, what kind of course do you suggest for them?
Okay, sir. As I mentioned earlier, standalone IoT is not going to help anyone.
So we are starting the
Okay,
validation
IoT
now.
has to be backed by certain technologies. The first one is the analytics. If you can see the all the startup that I'm mentioning, I have spoken to some of the startup yesterday for this particular program to understand what exactly they do. The basic thing is the analytics. A student should know the linear regression, multiple regressions of the analytics. This is the basic part to start the IoT part. So first is the data analytics part. Then they should know the basics of machine learning in the starts, which is a very, very basic. Then they can go for the IoT. And after learning IoT, they should also know a basics of cyber security because you would have seen the news. Now the war is not going to happen between soldiers. The war will happen through the cyber attacks. And there are certain, I mean, one person was mentioning it. So in the IoT space, lot of cyber attacks is happening. So that person was mentioning, they put a small chip where the irrigation, the drones are programmed to provide the irrigation to close to I think 2 hectares every day. So I mean, there was some issue happened by other provider. They put a chip inside, and instead of doing to the 2 hectare, it constantly give only for the 1 hectare on a regular basis. So this person came and asked to the startup what happened when they scanned. They found out there was a bug has been put over there, which is basically reduce the productivity. So what I found out, at least three things is necessary for a student to know: introduction to the cybersecurity, analytics, then they go through the IoT, which will basically help them. Yes, sir.
NASSCOM is giving any basic training in these three sectors?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think if you would have gone through
Yeah.
my this one, if you want, I can just show you my screen to show you in the features kits prime what are the technology that we basically explain. For machine learning, we have a provider called as Analytica. Through the Analytica, we provide a machine learning linear regression program. In fact, for that only we are doing the hackathon on the 3rd of October. So it's nothing but a 20-hour course. A student can take that course anytime, anywhere. It's again free of cost. As you might be knowing, Future Skills Prime is a Government of India initiative. Through that, student can learn it and get certified and apply for it. Cybersecurity courses is basically been sponsored by the Cisco. So student can learn the Cisco courses, apply for certification, get the certified, then they can do. In fact, our IoT course is also provided by Microsoft. You would have seen one slide I put it for the courses in that the foundations in IoT is given by the Cisco. Sorry, it is not from Microsoft, but Cisco. Cisco is providing the Internet of Things where students can learn it. And all these courses are free of cost. Students don't need to pay even a single penny.
And so further, in case if you can connect us to some startups who are really working in the IoT agri sector, it will be of great help. Because the talking to them may motivate our faculty members to start their career or to guide the students in the field of IoT, especially with reference to agriculture. Maybe we have another two phases to go on in this STTP. May I request you to connect us to some agri startups so that we can have 1 or 2 days exclusive, discussion forum from them.
Sure. Actually, last week this is the request that has come to us from a couple of universities in Karnataka. Uh, I could not share the name to them, name of them. So we are actually planning a startup week for a particular university. And what we are planning is our startup for 10. So NASSCOM has a team called as NASSCOM 10,000 startup. It is basically a startup warehouse funded by the Karnataka government. It is also based in HSR. So, so what we are planning is uh, the startup leaders are going to come along with us, the startup team. They will be guiding student A, what they need to do or what they how they plan a startup. A, B is what are the things they need to consider before going a startup, because everyone going for a startup. That's the reason we have close to the, if my data is correct, I think 93% of startups are failed in first 1 year. So we need to know, we need to have a proper guidance before we start the startup part. But regarding this, since you are asking about the agri-tech startup part, I'll check and confirm you. At present, I cannot comment whether when we can do it, but definitely I'll look into it. I request you to please send me an email about this request. We'll definitely plan out and provide. In fact, we can plan out something. We can do startup in agri-tech and startup in healthcare. We can have 2 days so the
Yeah, we
student
can
have the
have
ideas on both
healthcare
the
also, no
places.
issue in it, because it is biotech and bio-innovation. It need not to
Yes,
be specifically for agriculture. It can be on
yes,
bio-innovation as well.
certainly, certainly. Because healthcare is something that is currently booming sector. There is a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
requirement is coming in that. And we have seen a lot of startups also in the healthcare is coming now. So we'll definitely work out on that area as well.
yes, sir. Maybe we collaborate with NASSCOM as a knowledge partner. We take you as a knowledge partner for our next phase, and so that we can hand over the 2 or 3 days exclusively for NASSCOM, so that you
I'll
can
do
look.
one thing, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm not that qualified. So let me be.
Right.
So I'll also call somebody as startup companies. So because
Yes.
see, people like us, sir, we do not involve in the innovations phase. We involve at when in implementing phase only we get involved to see how it has been happening. So I mean, when as I mentioned in the beginning that some of my family members. So one of my family, the place where I belongs to a small I belong to a small city in Odisha called as Rourkela. So near to us, so that area is famous for the starch or the rice belt, that is we also called it. And also there is sunflower, you might be aware, the sunflower. So one of my cousin has he's doing sunflower and close to I think close to I think 3 hectares he is doing. So he has what he is doing, he is basically is the sprinkling part. So I have yesterday I've spoken, and last time when I visited, I found out that they use sprinklers in every I think every 6 feet they use a sprinkler. I think 6 to 9 feet is the normal thing. Through that they basically used it. But how they are planning, what is the technology behind it? That uh, I mean, we may not be the right person to tell you. The startup person is the one who basically guide, or a farmer who is basically used. So I can do something, sir. I can also bring somebody who is working over there from our
Yes.
foundation team. I have a colleague who is working very closely with the cotton farming and the sugar cane belt. You might be knowing UP,
Yeah.
the west part of UP, which is also one of the sugar belt. So there, we have a team who are working closely with the farming, the sugar farmers, and in fact, they, I mean, people may not be, you will laugh at us when I say this. So those are the team who is basically behind this, the three farm laws, which is currently now controversial, but they are also one of the reason they put their input for this farm laws. Obviously, for our based on the knowledge that we are getting from the business from the farmers, that's how we have given. So we're working on it. And we will work it out. That one, sir,
Yes, sir.
definitely.
Because it's the time for us to go out of our confined box and to
Yes,
expand ourselves into the need of the society. No,
yes.
otherwise, what happens? Being teachers, if we are not aware of the various alignment that we are supposed to have, then I don't think we'll fail in. I think we'll fail in conveying the things to the students.
Certainly, sir. In fact,
So,
I was telling you that Guntur Chile part, but where I went. So there are few. I think the JNTU Kakinada students have come from the bioscience. They have come there to see how it has been happening, and I strongly believe that a student who are there in the college, they should go to the ground to feel to understand how this technology basically been used, because these are things these are cannot be explained. These are the something that has to be feel. Somebody need to
yes,
understand how it is happening, the soil irrigation part. A very simple thing, how what a sensor is doing. how sensor can measure the water depth in the soil. That has to be get feel over there, understand what are the pesticides. People all talk about the apple circuit pesticides. Recently, the story that we are seeing news, it talks about the Shimla. There's a case was happening. So why the farmer is using it? So how technology can solve that? Those things they need to go and understand. So that's my understanding, sir.
Yes, sir. Rightly pointed out, sir. And participants, you can unmute yourself and you can pose the question to the sir, or you can put it in the chat box. There are a few compliments from the participants. Nice presentation. Presentation will be obviously nice from Dinesh. That you need to come out with a lot of questions so that he will be there to help you and he will be there to answer those questions.
Or else if questions students don't have the question, I also ask students, they can provide the question to sir and sir can give it to me, where I can work with my counterpart, my startups teams to find out and provide you. Then I'll definitely work it out. And I also urge students, please at least start your learning right now, because this pandemic has taught us that technology cannot be replaced, because technology is something that will definitely need, it's a need of an hour. We as a country, India is standing right now because we are, I mean, the technology is something is one of the backbone. So I request all of you, I know this complaint I get from most of the students, colleges, sir, too much of online learning, too much of kind of online sessions, but this is how the life is going to be. It's been 1.5 years that I'm visited to my office. But trust me, students, I have been working much more than the way I used to work. So when I used to go to office, when we used to go to office, morning 9 to 6 used to work. But now we are working 24/7. But this is a time for us to learn. And for you, this is the time. I also depend. I mean, sir also agree with this line that I mean, we sometimes envious of you, because the kind of opportunity you students are having, we can't even think of during our time. So please utilize it. This is definitely going to be helpful for you, and you don't need to pay for it. You are getting everything is free of cost. The technology, the learning is free of cost. The labs are free of cost. Those things you can use it. It's just that you need to have an internet, and Geo taught us that internet can be easily reached. So I call it the geofication of the Indian business, which basically allow us to use 1 GB data every day.
And earlier we were using MBs, we are purchasing it in
Yes,
MBs.
yes,
Now
I mean,
GB is in free.
I, yes, sir. I mean, till 2016, I still have that plan, which talks about every month I used to put 194 rupees for 2 GB data per month. So that 194 rupees I used to pay for Airtel. That's
Yes,
still
sir.
not even 4G. So that's a, and now we are paying almost like 600 rupees. We are getting 3 months, 84 days for 1.5 GB data per day. So think of it, plus unlimited calls. So that's the change. When I came to Bangalore, sir, just to share with you, I have been hired by one of the organization in Bangalore, campus hired by Infosys has hired me from my hometown. So I came to Bangalore in the year 2005. So that time the STD call used to be 2 rupees 70 paisa. And there is to, when we recharge for 400 rupees, we get a talk time of 270 rupees. And so those are the days. And now you see everything is almost free. I mean, when I've been to US for the first time, so I remember that time the call charges used to be 10 rupees. So I was then US for almost like close to 6 months, 6 to 7 months I was there. During the Lehman Brother crash happened, that time I was in US. That time I was working for a banking company. There was an organization called JP Morgan. So I used to work for JPMC that time. So Those days it used to be 10 rupees per minute if I'm talking from US to India. So, and if you see now, it's almost zero. You don't have to pay anything. So, yeah,
So that's how
so it depends on
technology,
us.
yeah, technology
Yes,
will help the society to a
yes, sir.
greater extent.
Yes, sir.